With that, let's get into a little bit of trivia, Ryan. I got a couple things for you. I think these are right up your alley.
Okay.
First, I'm going to start with a little bit of youth hockey. And so I'm just going to ask you in a word or two or three, no more than 3 words. If I were to ask you each position in youth hockey, what kind of kid plays each position? So I'll let you freestyle it, or I can call it the position. But how do you decide which kid in youth hockey ends up at which position?
Oh, boy. We'll see.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a hard one. So I'll give you a quick little hint on the direction that this goes. So the center, the kids who play center, is the coach's kid, according to this particular thing. This was tweeted by AJ Malesko Griswold, and it was pretty funny. It was mostly poking fun at goalies, but it had a lot of funny stuff in general. So the coach's kid is the center. What kid do you put at left wing? How would you describe them? What is their best or worst talent?
Ooh, man, that's hard, especially separating out into each wing.
Yeah.
Like for the center, I was gonna say the center would be like whoever the best runner is, and probably the most spastic kid, the one with all the energy there.
Can't stay in their lane.
The defense is especially at the young age is kind of the chunky kid that can't really skate.
Yep, the lefty is the tallest kid, and the righty is the strongest kid. Those are the two defensemen, or women, as the case might be. So think about those types of descriptors for the left wing. Who's the left wing? What's their talent?
Oh man. My brain is just not in the right space for this right now.
I'll give you the wings, but I'm going to make you guess the goalie because it's an easy one. So the left wing is the fastest kid, and the right wing, much like right field in baseball, is the clueless kid.
That was right wing.
Yeah,
and I can't figure this out.
And how about the goalie, Ryan? What kid? What would you use to describe the goalie?
The weirdest kid.
Close. In this particular adaptation, it was the sociopath kid. And apparently her child is a goalie, and she posted it anyway. So it was pretty funny. So I saw that retweeted. I saw that retweeted by a few people. I got this one. I actually saw the next one also retweeted. It's from like Sports Visuals on YouTube. It's pretty cool. Or Data Visuals on YouTube. But posted by Hellhammer, who's one of the more passionate Boston Bruins fan accounts. So if you're looking for some Boston Bruins passion, that's a good follow. Anyway, here's the real NHL trivia for you. We're going to go through each decade, starting in the 1920s, right through the 2010s. 2020s just barely started, so it doesn't apply. And we're going to see if Ryan can just guess the winningest team from every decade. So we'll start with the 1920s. So Ryan, who would be your most winning NHL team for the 1920s?
I'm going to have some trouble with some of these. I also feel like I should get either 3 to 5 guesses, not necessarily for the early decades, since there's only 6 teams.
Oh, there was not actually. There was actually more than 6 teams.
Well, there were more than 6 teams at points.
Yes. We'll give you several guesses, and if you get any of the top 3 right, we'll call that a success.
Toronto Maple Leafs.
Toronto Maple Leafs were 3rd in the 1920s.
Is it a team that is still in existence?
The second place team is a team that's still in existence, and honestly, a pretty good guess for most of these. And the other team,
Montreal Canadiens. Montreal Wanderers.
No, I think it was the Canadiens. Actually, there was the Maroons and Wanderers, but the Canadiens I think were better. The other team, the first place team, exists now. Existed
Ottawa Senators.
You got it. Had a big hiatus. Yep. And last place was the Hamilton Tigers.
Yes.
With the least amount of wins, who are now a CFL Canadian Football League team, interestingly enough, or Tiger Cats, but Hamilton Tigers. Yeah. All right, let's go to the 30s, and I'm hoping you're going to get this one right.
Montreal Canadiens.
Boston Bruins. The Canadians actually were not 1 through 3. The Boston Bruins, Toronto Maple Leafs, and then the New York Rangers. Last place team. This is a baseball team, actually. The last place team was the Pittsburgh Pirates with a grand total of 4 wins in the 1930s. So,
how many games did they play?
I don't know. I'm guessing just one season, probably. All right, the 1940s. Who do you got for the 1940s?
Detroit Red Wings.
They were second, and just by 4 wins to the first place team. So pretty good guess.
Montreal Canadiens.
Montreal Canadiens, yes, a very good choice. In third was the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Boston Bruins during the era of the original 6, or I think actually there might have been a 7th team for a little bit there, were 4th place overall. The last place team was the New York Americans. What about the 1950s, Ryan?
Boston Bruins?
Nope, the Bruins were 4th in that decade again.
Habs?
Yep, the Habs were first, followed by the Detroit Red Wings and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Let's move on to the 60s.
You go with the Habs again.
You are correct again, followed by the Chicago Blackhawks and the Toronto Maple Leafs. The 60s are the start of the expansion era. The Bruins finished 6th. The list is the last year where the particular video had the last place team, and it was the Minnesota North Stars. So now we've only got our top 3 teams and the Bruins when they're not in the top 3 listed. So what about the 1970s?
I'm just going to keep this train rolling and say the Habs again.
They were again for the, 4th decade in a row, I think? Yep, 4th decade in a row. They were the winningest team. The Boston Bruins were 2nd. The Philadelphia Flyers, surging onto the scene, were 3rd. What about the 1980s, Ryan?
Is it the Edmonton Oilers?
It is the Edmonton Oilers. Can you guess who was 2nd?
Islanders?
No, actually.
Habs?
Habs, yeah, the Habs were 2nd. I'll sort of let you know that was the end of their really impressive run, but that's about a 5-decade really impressive run. The Philadelphia Flyers were 3rd. I was surprised the Islanders were not there, but I think after their sort of runs there, they sort of fell off pretty good. The Boston Bruins were actually 4th during that era, which is pretty good considering there was quite a few teams in the 80s, over 20 at that point. The 1990s, Ryan, so we're getting closer to our youth. This is my use.
Yeah,
so
of the 3,
not yours as much.
I was born in the 90s, but I was not lucid for a lot of them.
I'm old enough that I remember these teams distinctly.
So, of the 3 remaining decades, this one is the biggest crapshoot for me. Detroit Red Wings.
Correct, Ryan. Nice job.
I knew they had the back-to-back cups. So
they did. Yeah. Do you want to take a guess at 2nd and 3rd by any chance?
Pittsburgh also had back-to-back cups.
Pittsburgh, yep. And the vaunted New Jersey Devils were the 3rd place team. The Boston Bruins fell from their streak of 4th, the 1-6, but otherwise 4th, dropped down to 8th. So it's the first time actually they are not in the top 6 of teams. The OOs, the Aughts, as they are. Who is your top team for the Aughts?
Well, speaking of Aughts, I think it's the Ottawa Senators.
Very close, 3rd place actually. So actually, I've actually watched. I watched the Ottawa. It was Ottawa Anaheim, I think. Who was it? No, yeah, Ottawa Anaheim. I watched one of those games in City Hall Park in Ottawa. I was actually already living in Vermont at the time, and a buddy was coming back with me from Toronto, and we pit stopped to visit a friend who was in school there, and we were like, "Oh, let's watch the hockey game." And so I got home just before work at 6 a.m. the next day, but it was a pretty awesome hockey game with 25,000 crazy Ottawans in the park. So that was a good time. They were a good team. I think that was Patrick Lalime was the goalie, if I'm not mistaken. So
yeah,
there's a throwback name.
With 2 other guesses.
Yeah, go for it.
One is again the Detroit Red Wings.
Correct.
And the other one was the San Jose Sharks.
No, New Jersey Devils were 2nd. But Detroit, again, you got right. So the Bruins dropped back. This was not their strongest decade, and they were 11th in this particular decade. What about the 10s?
So this is going to be hard, too, because there's been a lot of teams that have had dominant stretches. I've seen a graphic but I saw it like over a year ago. That was like the progression of most wins, and like the first and fourth and fifth were just kind of all moving back and forth. Based on their playoff streak and their back-to-back cups, though, I'm going to guess Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh was first, correct. I think Pittsburgh's adversary for Southeast Conference.
Washington?
Correct. The Capitals had the pretty impressive run there for a while. And then the third team, I'm hoping you're going to get the third team.
Bruins?
The Bruins.
Yeah. I figured probably LA and Chicago are probably near the top.
I would assume they're in there. Chicago had like that one weird dip year and then kind of resurged again. And then after that dipped, and LA had that pretty good run and then sort of fell apart. So, and actually the couple of years that they had pretty good runs, they didn't necessarily have great regular seasons. Which was
the first year they won the cup, they were an 8 seed.
Yeah, which is a rarity. As much as it's rarely the number 1 seed, it's almost never the 8 seed. So that's pretty impressive. So, Ryan, nice job. Good job on the trivia. We'll see if we continue with the trivia or not, but it is always fun. And I was pretty impressed. You did well. When in doubt, Montreal Canadiens. That's the way to go. And actually, the Bruins kind of have been a pretty good franchise over their lifespan. Hopefully, the 20s are good to them as well. And hopefully, this week is good to you, Ryan, and all of our listeners. And we'll see you back here next week for some more Bruins Breakdown. Have a good night. This has been another edition of Bruins Breakdown. I'm Leon Lifshitz.
And I'm Ryan Sweezy.
And we're proud to bring you this week's episode in partnership with the Black and Gold Production Sports Media Company.
You can support the show by liking, subscribing, sharing, and leaving a 5-star review.
We'd also like to thank Pinnacle Media of Vermont for our amazing logo.
And most of all, we'd like to thank you for tuning in.
We'll see you next week.
Take us away, Jack.